bunch of supplies that you will need if you are a nail tech. So there's an e-file on here, acrylic monomer and polymer, an acrylic sculpting brush, and then a polish bottle that is tipped over and spilled. I have done other similar designs in the past with nail polish spilling one way or another, and if you are interested in any of those, I can put them in the description box below. But otherwise for this one, I did it all KUPA. So it's a KUPA, it says Manny Pro Passport on the e-file. I have the KUPA on the brush, I have KUPA everywhere, the KUPA logo on the little polish bottle. Even though KUPA doesn't make and sell polish, they do have a lovely top coat, both matte and glossy, that I use all the time on my clients. And I'm just a big fan of KUPA. Their acrylic monomers are the best I've ever tried. I love them. They're white and they're clear, are the best sculpture acrylics I've ever tried. I use a KUPA e-file. Like I said, just a big KUPA fan all around here. So I decided to dedicate this design to them just because I really do use their products in this video and many others. So I thought it would just be appropriate. I hope you guys love this one as much as I do. And don't forget to click subscribe to my future videos as well. Bye!
We are going to begin with an overlay of a Cover Pink acrylic, and as we go through this video, I'm going to mention any times I'm using a KUPA color or a KUPA product, just so that you guys can kind of get an essence of exactly how often and how much I love these products. In this particular moment, the KUPA things I'm using right now is their Cover Pink Sculpture Polymer. It was their Sculpture Acrylic, Sculpture Monomer, their regular Sculpture Monomer, their Sculpture Cover Pink Acrylic, and I was using their brush, the number 10 Divinity Sculptor brush. And then I used my KUPA e-file and a KUPA K carbide bit in a medium round barrel. And now I'm going to be using that purple is a KUPA acrylic as well. And actually ignore that step that I just sculpted that little piece, because that is nothing that I'm actually going, I switched the way I did it. But we're going to be sculpting all the bases of our pieces in a nail form backing so that we have kind of just a start, and sculpt everything you can think of. So even though I said don't worry about that purple piece because I ended up doing it later, that was going to be for my monomer jar, and I ended up doing that around a straw eventually. So that's why I said, well, never mind on that. But we're going to be sculpting pieces of everything that we can. And if, depending on the style of nails you do, you may want to switch up the type of thing that you're making as far as the different nail tech supplies. Not everybody uses acrylic. Not everybody uses an e-file. There's these different variables, and there's so many different options. I know acrogel, polygel is a very big thing lately. I personally kind of have mixed feelings on it. I know when I first used it, it was like a love at first sight deal, but there's some pitfalls to that, as with anything. So I'm going to be doing acrylic. I love to sculpt with acrylic, and so it should be something that you like to do if you're going to recreate this design. So I've got my e-file. I have the start of my acrylic brush. I'm going to be doing a polish bottle. I'm using pink for the inside color of my polish bottle. I'm a pink person, so pink is kind of the way I go with things. And we're going to be doing, so for me, for my polish bottle, I have it spilled. That is something that I love, the look of having something spilled. Not obviously if it's on my actual nail table, then I get very irritated when I spill something. But just as far as aesthetics go in a design, if something is spilled, I think it adds a little element of realism. It makes you think like, yeah, you know what, that looks like a table. It's not too poised. It's not too, staged. It looks good. It's got a mishap on it, because that's pretty much how my life is. There's always a mishap here and there. Plus, you get to add a little more color if the polish bottle is spilled, because it can spill over the nail. Obviously, if you prefer to be a little more clean in your entire endeavor and you don't want the spilled polish bottle, don't sculpt the polish brush and handle separately. You're going to want to sculpt that with the bottle altogether. For my e-file, that blue rectangle that I have started there, that's going to be for the battery pack of my e-file. That black shape next to that is going to be for my handpiece. That white rectangle I just sculpted is also one of those things that I ended up deciding to do differently, so I'm just going to get rid of that. That was going to be a base for my the jar of acrylic powder, but like I said, I decided to do those around a straw and kind of switch up my methodology a little bit. And that happens. I usually delete those clips of where I do something differently, but I decided to leave them in because I wanted you guys to see that I change my mind on things as I'm working on them. I get questions often about if I pre-plan designs, if I do a design before recording it and then record it because I wanted to practice once, that kind of a question. And the answer is no. I do not pre-plan my designs usually too much. It's a lot of times I will not have a clear game plan until I start making it. And a lot of times my idea of how I want to do things will change various times throughout the process of making it. And it's kind of like I don't want to over plan because I feel like that can be restricting. Some people need that. If you need to have a clear cut plan, you need to have an A equals B, B equals C. This is the order of steps I'm going to take. No problem. That is how your process is. Go with it. For me, I'm more of a let's see how this goes. I'll probably change my mind 16 times in the middle of it because I'll have a better idea. And I'm okay with that. That works for my system. I'm perfectly comfortable switching things as I go. So I don't do that. When you're doing your little e-file piece, if you are doing an e-file, when you're doing the battery pack, you need to add a string to it. And then when you go to finish off your hand piece, you're going to want to glue the string into one side of the hand piece and then a little metal piece of wire out of the other side for where the bit is. And then you're going to want to cover all of those little pieces with some more black acrylic so it looks 360. You want everything in this design to have a 360 perspective. And when I say that, and I know I use that term quite a bit. So if you guys watch my videos all the time, you're probably like, oh yeah, I know exactly what she's talking about. Otherwise, even if you watch my videos all the time and I talk too quick, maybe this will help. When I say I want something to be 360, it's because I want you to be able to look at it from any angle and it looks like it's supposed to look. I don't want it to just have a single perspective. A lot of times with 3D art, you look at it for nails. This is not generalized, but for nails, you look at it from the top of the nail down and that's how you're supposed to look at it. That's how it's sculpted to be viewed. It's not something that you necessarily look at it from this side and it looks just as cool as it does from the very top because that's not how it's made to look. When I'm sculpting a design and I want it to have that 360 perspective, I want you to get a different view, a different look at detail, a different something, no matter how you look at this nail. If you look at it from the side view on the right, side view on the left, down the barrel from the tip, down the barrel from the back, down from the top, I want you to be able to see something new each time you look at it differently. I want it to be kind of a case where you don't know where you're supposed to be looking at it from because it is a finished, complete view no matter where you see it. So with that being said, when I'm sculpting things like this and I want them all to look exactly how the item looks on the table, it's because I want it to be able to look exactly how the table setup is. So now on a straw, you're going to actually do this twice on 2 different size straws. You're going to be sculpting clear cylinders, just a short little cylinder around the end of a straw. That's going to be for the jars that hold your monomer and the jars that hold your polymer. I know a lot of people use dab dishes. I use jars. I use little glass jars. The ones that I use for monomer I have 2 because I use 2 types of KUPA monomer. I use their 3D monomer and their Divinity monomer. Or maybe it's Sculpture monomer, not Divinity. Yeah, I'll put it in the description box below. But I use both kinds, and so I use little glass jars. One of them is from baby food, and one of them is from jelly. But I think they work so much better because I can put a lid on them that actually tightens down. So you're going to go through and you're going to add your little glass jars, make a clear bottom on them on a nail form backing. Going back to my polished bottle on my nail form backing, I'm going to put a nice thick clear acrylic layer on top of the pink rectangle that I started for the polished bottle. That's going to be for the clear glass that goes up and over. Add the little nozzle to it. After you're done with that, flip it over, add a lot more pink acrylic. So you want, when you're looking at it from the side, that first side we did with the skinny little rectangle and then a lot of clear is going to be the top. But if this is on its side, and then the bottom of the bottle would be completely filled in with the pink so that it looks like it's running out the spout. I hope that makes sense, because if you tip something like a water bottle on its side, you can kind of see hopefully what I'm talking about, where it's filled in on the bottom and then the top of it is just clear. That's kind of the look that we're going for. Add more clear acrylic, just a thin layer over the top of that thicker bit of pink. Round out the spout or the opening of it, the neck of the bottle. There's the word I'm looking for. After that's done, you have all of your pieces made. You can go ahead and start putting them on. So I'm going to start with the biggest pieces, and then I pre-thought out how I wanted these a little bit now that I had them all made. So before you start gluing, you may want to just set them in place to kind of decide how they're going to be. I'm going to wrap the cord of the e-file around the nail and then glue the hand piece down. I'm going to attach my 2 clear jars. So there's the one that's bigger, that's going to be for my polymer. There's the one that's smaller for my monomer, or smaller, apparently. That's another way to say it. I'm going to be adding the little polished bottle, making sure that the more clear side is up. And then after that's been glued down, you're going to want to glue down the brush of your nail polish bottle. to do that, I'm going to lay down some of the same pink acrylic that I used on the inside of the bottle, then stick the brush into the wet acrylic and just hold it there. I actually sometimes find that to be a quicker method than trying to glue things in place because occasionally nail glue just does not want to glue. So that works very well as well. Once that is pretty much secure and it's not going anywhere, secure just a little more acrylic on the underside of it to support the weight. Just make sure it's not going to tip over. Once you're completely happy with how that is set up and you're not worried about it tipping anymore, then you can go ahead and you get to fill in your monomer bottle and you can fill in your polymer bottle or jars. Now for the monomer, I would use a purple tone just because typically that is what monomer is. It has a purple hue to it, and KUPA's does. The one I picked has a little bit of a glitter mix in it too. I think that just adds to the liquidy appearance. And then for your polymer, for your powder, you can choose any color you want. I went with white. I figure the most common ones I use from KUPA are their white and their clear. And because clear powder in there wouldn't really look like too much, we're going to go with white. Fill in that jar fairly full. And then as you are waiting for it to get done, to cure, you're going to actually take some of that white powder and you're going to scoop it into it. It will leave a white powdery finish on the top of that acrylic, and then you're going to want to set your nail polish brush, or the acrylic sculpting brush rather, into that wet acrylic and hold that up like it is scooping a bead of acrylic onto the brush. Once you are all done with that, you can go through and you can add the smaller details to your design. Like I said, I'm going to keep it all KUPA, so I'm going to write Mani Pro on the front of my e-file. The way I'm writing Mani Pro is the way that it looks on my e-file, at least to an extent. It doesn't actually have a different color. It's just like an indent. It's like it's embossed with Mani Pro Passport, but I'm going to do it with white paint instead so it shows up just a little bit better. If you want to do different brands or not brand specific things for your e-file, you can certainly keep it a little more simple. I know some e-files have like a black and white striping pattern on them, sort of like like a black whoosh across a white e-file. That would be a very classic thing to do if you didn't want it to be branded. So we've got the Mani Pro, and then really tiny, you have to write Passport underneath the PRO. And then after you have that done on the hand piece, I'm just going to write KUPA. If you wanted to go crazy, you could write the number of the e-file. It's like KP 85 or something. I don't remember what mine is, but you could do that too if you wanted. On the sculpting brush, I'm going to write Divinity, and then I'm going to add a number. You can choose to write a number if you want to. The two that I use most frequently from KUPA are their 8 and their 10 as far as the big Divinity brushes. I also use their 3D sculpting brush, which is just revolutionary. I love that 3D sculpting brush. It has a dotting tool on the end of it, which makes a huge difference. I use that little dotting tool for things all the time. And then I guess I didn't write a number on there. I was going to, and then I decided against it. Anywho, on the polish bottle, I'm going to write the KUPA logo, which is it's sort of like a K hidden in a black and red shape. So there's the black part of it, and then the red is just a triangle. It gives you sort of the essence of a K without having it to actually have a K. Once you're done with all of your little details on the whole thing all around, you're going to want to apply some gel sealer or gel top coat over the background. I am using KUPA's gel top coat. It has that beautiful metallic red lid. It's very easy. One thing I love about it, it's very easy to spot in my jar or my box of top coats because it's got that red lid. I love it when a top coat or a base coat or whatever it is, you can tell what it is without having to pull it out and read the bottle. One of my favorite things about KUPA's is that the lids are all different for their base coat, their top coat, and their matte top coat. So there is no question about what it is that you are grabbing, because as soon as you remember what the different lid colors are, you're pretty much good to go. So super side benefit. Then I'm going to use KUPA's 3D Glaze, which is basically a regular lacquer top coat, just meant to apply to 3D art so that it doesn't interfere with the shaping of the 3D art. And then that is it. This design is done. As a nail tech, I am so in love with this design. If you guys decide to recreate it and switch it up and maybe do some things that are a little different in it, I would love to see how that turns out. There are so many different options for what you could do to be a nail tech themed design that it is just so freeing, and there's so many just fun things you can do. I hope you guys love this as much as I do, and I will see you next time. Bye!